Hello there, welcome to Genesis Models. My name is Bob Warden and welcome to episode 18 of the Phantom build. Now, what we're going to be doing in this episode is we're going to be doing, as you can see, we're doing all sorts of masking up, spraying on our second colour, doing all sorts of, well actually no, I think we actually sprayed the grey one and the green colour onto this as well, bleaching, pre-shading, all sorts of goodies, getting this all nicely masked up, and basically we'll probably be getting into episode 19 where we do the final post shade on this, but time to shut up and get spraying. So we're going to now move along with our wheel wells. Now with our wheel wells, we are, as you can see, we're going the opposite way around. We've sprayed our base down first before we've gone off and done our wheel wells. It's just another way of doing it. I like to show different ways. Well, first off, we're going to get our scalpel out. This is the Swan Morton one, and we want to use good old sort of number 11 blades. Now getting a fresh one on here, just a quick sort of, you know, a nice, easy, sort of safer way of removing these. You know, just get some pliers, make sure it's pointing away from you, and just slide them off. Really easy. And the same goes for then attaching them using some pliers. Again, push it on. It's just so much more safer doing it that way, and then dispose of your blades nicely. Now we need it nice and sharp because we want to be able to cut into our masking tape really easily. We don't want to be sort of kind of dragging it and constantly cutting it. We're going to just make one nice cut straight away and it cuts through. So just getting out some Tamiya masking tape just here. What we're going to do is actually mask up our wheel wells, right, just like so, right, and then we just want to make sure that we sort of press it down so it's kind of really sort of nice and down. So this is a good reason why we have it all nicely glossed over. And then when you kind of need more than one, sort of, you know, kind of don't go really over, sort of try and just kind of get it really sort of close, maybe like 2 mil overlapping on your other piece of masking tape. And again, you know, really sort of try and press that down, right. Now already you might be able to see sort of like a little bit of a shape, just a slight little see-through of the wheel well. But what you could do is get out a pencil, right, and good old sort of using the side of the pencil and just sort of, you know, maybe sort of kind of just draw, you know, just draw on this, right. And what this should do is sort of, you know, presses it down, but also gives you a little bit of an outline at the same time. Nice quick little outline by doing this pencil on there, and hopefully you can now see this shape a little bit better. You should be able to see that shape come through by doing that. Then this is where we come in the blade, and this is why we need it nice and straight. We can now sort of, I like to start in the middle a little bit, right, and what we're going to do is just cut into that, and we should come close to the wall pretty quick, and then we just start following it around, and then it just touch those walls. There we go, that's hit a corner there. So I'm going to come in a little bit from the outside and then sort of follow that wall around, and then again coming from maybe the outside, and then you'll feel it sort of touch that wall, and then you just want to follow it down. There we go. Maybe try and sort of cut that a little bit out. And as you can sort of already see, if we sort of pull that up a little bit, we're really getting a good nice cut outline, and that just makes it all nice and ready to do some spraying. Obviously we'd go off and we'd sort of mask up a little bit more around here depending how good you are at getting in close, but plain and simply we kind of just spray that nice and white. Maybe a little bit of a touch up here and there with a paintbrush, but you know, apart from that, it does pretty much the same job as you would if you sprayed your wheel wells first, filled them in with some sort of, you know, sponge or something, and then sprayed your main coat on top. I've now removed the masking tape, and hopefully what you can see is this is all nicely sprayed in. Sort of nice technique, depends on how you want to go about it. You probably, I mean, you could probably just see just there, I mean, a little bit of masking tape got in the way there, and sort of maybe come in with a little paintbrush just to finish those little bits off, but that's all pretty good. Now I've masked this up ready for spraying. Now as you can see, all I've done is got our sides nicely done just there. As you can see, not much masking tape on here. I know you could sort of like completely cover the bottom if you so wish, depending on your skill level with an airbrush. I do recommend our what was it, the strike camera just here, getting that, because that does stick out, and it's sort of, you've got to think of your angles. You're spraying at this angle, right? You could catch that strike camera just there, so I've masked that up. Apart from that, I'm going to leave that as that. These you know, they do take quite a bit of masking, our fuel tanks just here, but they should look really cool when they are done. Apart from that, you know, time to spray the top side. So as you can see, I've put our main colour on just here. This is our XA1036. It's the RAF dark camo grey. Now as you can see, I've done the whole model. I haven't gone off and sort of made the camo pattern for this colour and made the camo pattern for that colour. You know, I've put on our lightest camo coloured down first, all over, did all the weathering all over, and the whole idea is that we mask this up and put the second camo colour on top. I find that makes it a little bit easier. I know it does mean that you're kind of doing pre-shading and bleaching maybe twice in a sense, but it just saves having to try and find that camo pattern with both colours. I find it easier that way. Now as you can see, we're into the bleaching stage. Now the top I'm going to do a little bit different with the bleaching. So I've got my as I've already shown you how to do mix up your own sort of bleached colour. And what we're going to do here, I've looked at reference photos. Reference photos are good to sort of see where weathering really does get really dirty. So a noticeable place seems to be on these F4s, right, is just here, right, somewhere there, maybe up in the top at the tail section, but here seems to get really sort of weathered, like them open up panels or something's going on. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to really sort of go for it with our bleaching just here. So I'm really going to try and get in close and just really sort of give it some real good mottling, right? And actually I'm not going to worry about going onto our panel lines. You know how sort of bleaching, it's inside the panel lines, but this area we're going to give it such a good scene to. I mean, we're going to do some really nice post shading on top of this, so I'm not going to worry about getting my bleaching on the recessed panel lines or any sort of panel lines, right? I'm really sort of going to get in there and really sort of give it some very nice heavy bleaching, right? So hopefully you can see I'm sort of really building that up, really mottling it. It's good if you can get in really close and make sort of fine mottling as well if you can. Again, you know, the closer you get, you know, you potentially gonna get your paint a bit thinner, your air pressure lower, so you can get in closer. Now that's getting a bit more advanced, but you know, really sort of just giving this area a lot of mottled, so really make it look bleachy. So hopefully, as you can see, after just doing that, this area is looking really sort of mottled and bleached. I mean, if you could sort of look at the rest of the area, that's really sort of looking nice and mottled and bleached. What we're also going to do is as well Now, the whole point of bleaching is supposed to be like the sunlight's kind of fading the paint to a lighter colour. So what we're going to do also is, I've now done all my bleaching here, but what I'm going to do is just at the top, I'm not going to sort of do any mottles, but I'm actually going to give it a bit of a blast, as if I'm spraying it just all the way along that top end there, making sure I'm getting my angle so it's just coming from the top. And because I'm doing it from a distance, it should just give that top area just that light bit of a, making it look quite a bit sort of lighter, like it's generally all bleached there. And that's pretty much it from the bleaching. Now what we're going to do as well, as I say, we're going to do the post shading, but with the post shading I want to get my both colours on. As I say, I like to sort of blend it all in. So what we need to do now with that done, let it dry, get a gloss coat on there, because we're going to be masking this up for making our camo pattern. And again, it's a nice way of saving your work by just getting that a little bit of a gloss coat on there. Something like one coat will probably do, like a misty coat and a light coat, because we're only protecting it from a bit of masking. We're not sort of doing deckling or anything like that. Misty coat, one light coat, and that should get it ready. But leave it overnight to dry as well, because we don't want our masks or whatever we use to mask this up to stick to the model. I just want to show you something about Airbrush Problems before we move on any more. I had a little bit of a problem of the paint spluttering. Now when it comes to paint spluttering out of your airbrush, normally the troubleshooting is going to be, maybe you need to up your air pressure to get that nice feathered spray pattern, or maybe you need to add a little bit more thinners to get that nice spray pattern. But if it's still spluttering, one thing could be is your problem is potentially your nozzle or your needle. So you know, you can go off and sort of get out, say, your iPhone, a camera or something, or magnifying glass, just something where you can just sort of nicely zoom in onto your nozzle, right, and it just helps you sort of see that nozzle, that nice little hole just right at the end. You know, you're looking for like cracks or bends or deformities or anything like that. And if there is a problem, you know, really these things just need to be replaced, right? But your needle, on the other hand, is potentially, you know, you could be saving it. So instead of going out straight away and just buying one, there are products out there. I mean, we do have Sharpen Air, but I got this years ago. This is a good one, and basically, you know, we put it inside of here and it's perfectly angled, right, and we just spin it inside, and that should get rid of any sort of nasty bends on the end of our needle here, which is basically what I had. I must have just nicked it. It can be just the slightest of a little nick, and it's just slightly bent on the end, and that can create little splutters. But what you can do, without going off and buying one of these or buying a new needle, we can get out a nice sanding stick. I've got a nice spongy one here. It's about a medium to fine grit, and what we do is we can run it along the sanding stick nice and lightly. You know, take your time with this, try and get it at just that nice angle where it just, where the point just fits nice and sort of flat. So you've got to get that nice angle. We don't want to be, you know, kind of sharp sanding away the actual point. You've got to get at that nice angle, and as we do it, right, I'm turning it, I'm actually turning it as I drag it along, right, trying to keep that angle and spinning it at the same time. Right, and it doesn't actually really take much to get a really tiny little bend that's on the end of the needle. Right, so I'm just pulling that back, and what we can do now is, once we've done sort of like a medium to fine grit, you know what, it's just like any sort of sanding. We can go off and maybe get one of these sort of Canopy Polishes now. This one's by Camo. And we can work our way through the grits on this while spinning it, same sort of motion, right, and going on to the next one, and it should give you a nice sort of feathered spray pattern after working your way down to through all the grits and you should be able to feel it now. It feels so much more nicer and smoother. We shouldn't be feeling any nicks, and hopefully that will save you a nice bit of time, bit of money, and get you back into airbrushing. Now our F4 has nicely had time to dry. As you can see, we've got a nice shine to that, and that was just from one coat. This is why I'm liking this intermediate Gauzy agent. I used to use the floor cleaner stuff, but you know what, one coat of this and it's looking so shiny already. Really, really good. Should protect it really nicely. Now getting into the camo stage, we're going to be using Panzer Putty. Now if you've not used this before, it is really, really good stuff. But what you want to do, get out your instructions. I do like to sort of, you know, make sure that, you know, you've got the instructions in front of you. I'm orientating it nicely with the model, and what you want to do, get this Panzer Putty out. It's really good in the sense that I've had this for years now, done loads and loads of camo patterns, and it just seems to eat the paint. It just seems to disappear pretty much, and it's still going nice and strong. There is a downside to it though. The problem is what this stuff does is it very slowly droops and droops and droops over. As you can see, it's sort of slowly sort of drooping over, and when you put it onto your model, you've got to be careful that it doesn't, you don't leave it, say, you know, till the next day, because if you kind of mask this all up and it's looking good, but then you don't spray it, or maybe you spray a bit, the next day it's going to have drooped all the way down and it's turned into this puddle, and you've kind of got to remask. So really it is a bit of a time scale. You've got to kind of like sort of mask it up, and then within a couple of hours you want to be sort of having it sprayed, right? So what we can do with this stuff, it is good to get some scissors out, because it just kind of just keeps on stretching, right? But if we just cut off a bit, I like to start off by sort of making some nice sort of sausages. Right, like so. We kind of just roll this up in your hands, and actually you get it a bit warm and it sort of makes it a little bit easier to more pliable as well. And all we want to do is take in our instructions. The instructions do show panel lines, which is good, you know, so you can sort of look at maybe some of these panel lines and probably find a nice starting point. Now what we want to do is mask up our grey bits and leave our green bits sort of nicely showing. So looking at a panel line here, right, I'm just finding panel lines, and I'm just going to find our starting point, and I'll just fold that underneath there. It's got a bit of tackiness to it, and then what you want to do is just sort of try and, you know, follow that pattern to a degree, right? Just kind of using your thumb and just with the sausages, just maneuver this around. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting this just right. That looks sort of about right, and then I know it sort of finishes just at the end where this sort of panel line is, just here. Right, and we could probably cut off a little bit of excess, but leaving a little bit just to fold over. Right, and once you've got that basic shape, you can sort of manipulate a little bit more, maybe, you know, push a few curves into it just to kind of give it a bit of a pattern. Just make sure it's all sort of, you know, going around about where you sort of want it to be. Play around with it. The cool thing is as well, we can sort of get off a little bit, right, and we can actually use it to sort of almost mask this up as well, not getting out Tamiya masking tape or anything like that. We can, if I bring you in a bit, we can get a little bit, and then we can just sort of stretch it like so as well, right, and hopefully. And the cool thing is as well, it really likes to stick to itself, so you've only got to basically touch the Panzer Putty with Panzer Putty and it just sticks. I mean, that's just stuck right down. It loves to stick to itself. Right, and we can just fold that over there like so. I mean, we've got a bit of a pointy bit there, so I might actually put a bit of a stronger blob on that. So I'll just cut a nice little bit off, because I've just stretched that and it's quite thin, so I'm just going to put quite a big blob on that there, because I don't want that sort of cutting through and we end up that bit sprayed. And there you go, pretty sort of easy to do. It's just the problem is with this stuff is, you know, you want to get it on and get it sprayed, you know, within a couple of hours. You kind of want that to be all done, because as I say, you know, if I leave this, it's just going to droop down and you're going to lose your shape. That's the only sort of downside to it. But as I say, you know, you can spray this on, roll it back up and use it again and again and again. As I say, I've probably done like maybe 10-15 models with this stuff and it's still good and going. When we start spraying, again, it's the same rules apply with like Tamiya masking tape. You don't want to blast the area with spray paint, because it will seep underneath and you'll get sort of like bleed through and stuff. So keep your coats nice and light, and other than that, you know, it's pretty much nice and easy. So I'm going to get this masked up and then we're going to get spraying. So that's it, basically almost all sprayed. All the masking has been removed from this. Now you might find you've missed a little bit here and you've got a little bit of sort of overspray. Now the lucky thing is, if we sort of look, you might just be able to see it right there. Somehow a little gap there has let a little bit of overspray of our green paint there. Cotton wool bud, maybe a little bit moist. We can rub at it. It may, hopefully it does, it normally does, we'll rub that off. Right, and the whole reason for this is because remember, we sealed it in with a gloss coat, and when you sort of try and rub away, here's another little bit I found as well. This one's quite heavy though, because it's a gloss coat, you can sort of rub away sort of unprotected paint, and it's not going to rub away our grey paint, because it's got a gloss coat that protects it. Right, may take a bit of rubbing, but there you go. It's not going to rub away our grey paint, which is the whole point of that. So little mistakes like that. I mean, you might find little areas that you might want to remask and respray. I'm kind of umming and ahhing about this little bit there. It kind of maybe looks a bit too sharp. Could just remask that and maybe spray the grey or the green, whichever one you want to pick. It's up to you. Now this is now ready for doing some post shading, which basically brings us to the end of episode 18, sadly. So obviously, as you could probably guess, episode 19 we're going to be doing our post shading. The post shading, you know, is going to be a little bit you know, it's a little bit hard. I mean, it does take a bit of experience. I can't just teach you, need to kind of practice and experience, but we are going to be tackling doing the post shading basically all over the model. Remember, because we've got so many colors going on here, I wanted to blend the post shading in, so we're going to be blending this in with basically probably the bottom side, the top two colors on the top, blending them in together. We could even, I'm not quite sure, I'll see how I feel, you might be even be able to sort of blend in the natural metal finishes that we've got in here at the back. So quite a bit of post shading to do, but when that's done, gloss coat on top and we're into deckling. So we'll see how far we get in episode 19, but until then, as always, my name is Bob Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and hope you've enjoyed.